The most fascinating part of the universe is the earth. The land, the mountains, the hills, the rivers and the seas, the deserts and forests, the flora and fauna are the everlasting panoramas of this great earth. And the most important creation on this earth is the human being. Perhaps there is no parallel to this kind of creation. It is this human being who has caused for the birth, growth, development, and in some cases, death of cultures. India, being a part of this earth, is the best example of all types of human activities. In India, human activities began to take shape since prehistoric times. As the ideas developed, so began the cultural activities. Customs and traditions grew in the natural surroundings of the society from the Himalayas to Kanyakumari. As the society grew and economic needs increased, so began the extension of agricultural activities. The river valleys became centers of human habitation. Agriculture, which is the root of culture, gave way to the growth of religion and religious activities. The region watered by the river Sindhu and her tributaries was called variedly Hindu by the Persians and Indus by the Greeks. British called Indi, India. Also, India's true ancient name is Bharata. In this land of Bharata Muni developed the Vedas, the sacred texts which provided the roots of a religion called Hinduism. There had been a strong current of movement of people from place to place for achieving different aims and aspirations such as military conquest, opening of new trade avenues, or seeking enjoyment out of an adventurous life. It was this movement that led to a vigorous development of political, economic, social and religious activities. Otherwise, life was to be a stalemate equal to the one of jungles during the prehistoric times. Since the earth has played and continues to play a domineering role in the activities of the human life, it is considered as Mother Earth. Similarly, rivers in India are considered sacred. Several important places, towns and cities have come up all along the banks of these rivers. There are copious references in the Mahabharata to the travels and movements of people and society from Hastinapur to Dwaraka. The people on travel or pilgrimage were treated very kindly with food, shelter and protection at all the places of their sojourn. This reflects the great cultural synthesis the country enjoys through its length and breadth even today. The Vedic religion, later on called Hinduism, was nurtured properly by the great sages, saints and the people from time to time. Later on, two faiths emerged successful. In due course, Jainism and Buddhism became the integral part of Indian culture. When the sands of Arabia gave birth to Islam, the new religion spread fast into the East and India. A few centuries later, Sant Guru Nanak established a new faith called Sikhism in the Punjab. When the Europeans entered India, they brought with them Christianity. Thus, India became a land of convergence of the religions of the world. The customs and traditions of this land are as varied as they are vast. Being a land of temples and sojourn, of gods and goddesses, India is blessed with an inherent uniform force. India is called an ethnological museum of cults and creeds, customs and traditions. The astounding aspect of it is its continuity. This is very much visible in the worship of Mother Goddess. From the time of Indus Valley civilization, the worship of Mother Goddess spread to every nook and corner of this sacred land. Over the ages, it moved into the west coast. It became a part and parcel of coastal Karnataka's rich cultural heritage. The southern part of coastal Karnataka is called Dakṣiṇa Kannaḍa and the northern part is Karwar. This is an enchanting stretch of land lying between the alluring Arabian Sea on the west and the lofty evergreen ranges of the Sahyadri Mountains on the east. This wonderful land is traditionally believed to be a creation of sage Parashurama. A fascinating traditional account about this sage reverberates throughout Dakṣiṇa Kannaḍa. The story is that the sage vanquished the Kshatriyas and gave the entire land to the people without retaining a piece of land for himself. He then requested the sea god, Samudra Raja, for a piece of land. The sea god responded and told the sage to demarcate the boundary from where he would receive. Standing on a hill, the sage threw his axe far into the sea. The sea waters receded immediately. A new land came up where the sage lived. This land came to be called Parashurama Srishti, a creation of Parashurama. The small rocky hill overlooking an enchanting valley and the famous Kunjaragiri has a small temple dedicated to this sage. No wonder this unique land of the sage, which enchants everyone with its beauty and bounty, became the earthly abode of the Divine Mother. The modern society of Dakṣiṇa Kannaḍa is wrapped soothingly by its age-old cultural activities and customs and traditions. The geographical situation of Dakṣiṇa Kannaḍa has made the region to have a wider contact with the people of far and nearby regions. As the region attracted, so increased the movement of people into Dakṣiṇa Kannaḍa since very ancient times. To begin with, the strong currents of attraction were achieving the political aims by acquiring lands and economic gains and acquisition of wealth through trade and commerce. The migration of people into Dakṣiṇa Kannaḍa increased gradually during the Chalukya, Hoysala and the Vijayanagara periods. These people, with their myriad culture and profession, have merged with the local society. This has made the social order of Dakṣiṇa Kannaḍa cosmopolitan. Dakṣiṇa Kannaḍa, popularly called Karavali, is a very fascinating land. The professions and faiths of people are different, yet there is a striking central chord of synthesis. The influence of Indus Valley civilization must have been very strong over Dakṣiṇa Kannaḍa, for there are certain similarities between the two. The matriarchal society of Indus Valley had been wrapped with a strong current of the worship of Mother Goddess. The matriarchal society of this region nurtured the mother cult very well. Hence, the entire society reverberates with the force of the Divine Mother even today. Various forms of Mother Goddess for worship were practiced by these people. One such form of the mother worship was Kalasha. Kalasha is the simplest of the forms of the personification of the Mother Goddess, be it for daily or occasional worship. Kalasha represents Purna Kumbha, universe and the womb of the mother, the giver of life and progeny. Hence, Kalasha is regarded as the very source of divine energy. To symbolize her power as a destroyer of evil forces, a sword is kept by the side of the Kalasha. This principle is followed even with regard to the lesser deities who are kept and worshipped in separate chambers. The various forms of the Mother Goddess are reflected in the several beliefs stemmed in by the culture and vocation of this myriad society. Such an example in the eco-cultural context is seen among the navigators and traders who consider Goddess Durga of Boppanadu as a water goddess. The seacoast must have provided a safe and quick communication link between the Indus Valley and Dakṣiṇa Kannaḍa. This has percolated a social order with a religious faith into Dakṣiṇa Kannaḍa. These people have identified themselves with their particular social customs and traditions, especially with the worship of their Mother Goddess. The Purāṇic evidences speak of the mother in the form of Prakriti, the nature. Prakriti is stated to be the consort of Purusha. All the activities of the universe are entirely dependent on the communion of Purusha with Prakriti. These two divine forces are none but Shiva and his consort Parvati, the Shakti. This Adi Shakti controls the universal acts of creation, protection and destruction. As such, Shakti presides over the fate and fortunes of her earthy creations in the form of nature and its 5 elements known as the Panchabhutas. Ever since man understood the potential of this Mother Goddess, he developed specific rituals to propitiate her. The mother cult in Dakṣiṇa Kannaḍa is a gradual development from an unknown past. Its archaic nature is reflected in its folk performance. The most important folk mother deity is Mari. Here, people call her by different names such as Mariammā, Marikāmbā, Mahāmāyī, Mahākālī, Ambudeśvara, Śrīdevī, and many others. by the acts of the sage. To worship this goddess, the sage Parashurama constructed a temple of the Devi. Perhaps this temple came up in the spot where the renovated temple exists today. Maṅgalā Devī Temple is one of the earliest centers of Mother Goddess worship in Mangalore. The only available evidence that can be accounted here is the main image of the goddess Maṅgalā. The stone image depicting only the bust of Devi has very faint expression. The image depicts its very archaic nature. But normally visitors to this temple do not get this picture, as the mother goddess Maṅgalā Devi is decorated with metallic image, flowers and jewels. This temple of goddess Maṅgalā Devi has another traditional account. A princess of Kerala wanted to meet her religious guru Matsyendranatha, the head of the Natha Pantha Matha. The princess changed her name as Maṅgalā. On the way to Kadari, Maṅgalā fell ill at Bolara. The Guru Matsyendranatha got constructed an ashram to her at Bolar itself. Here Maṅgalā did tapas and obtained mukti. Later on, the Ballala, the feudal lord of this place, constructed a temple dedicated to her. But this is an account of about 10th century AD, whereas the temple of Maṅgalā Devi existed several centuries before this incident occurred. Festivals are celebrated here in a grand manner. There would be a huge gathering of people belonging to all walks of life. The procession deity, known as Utsavamurti of the Mother, would be decorated and carried on head by a priest who dances to the tune of folk music. The big car festival that takes place on Vijayadashmi, the last day of Navaratri festival, is the grandest of the festivals that takes place here. Mother moves very close to everyone and receives worship. It is a sight to witness with devotion to draw the huge decorated chariot wherein the Divine Mother sits and blesses all. The influence of the Divine Mother is such as to make all people forget their social status and background, caste and creed, and gather as one unit and get a chance to worship her. This is only a continuation of the archaic form of folk worship, but with a little modification. The night blazes with lighting decorations. The huge gathering of devotees get an occasion to be very happy with various cultural programs. Time never bothers them. Thus, the goddess Maṅgalā Devī reigns supreme. Though modern in its every outlook, Mangalore, the jewel city of Dakṣiṇa Kannaḍa, has retained many of its ancient customs and traditions, religious faiths and social order.